In 1972, self-identified radical feminist Lisa Orlando would publish a document called the Asexual Manifesto. The 8-page document that took inspiration from the lesbian counterpart Woman-Identified Woman discussed how asexuality is not only a movement that pushes back against misogyny and the sexualization of women by men, but it has one goal: to establish asexuality. The document goes into great detail about asexuality as not only a means to protest against the patriarchy, but also detail and explain asexuality as a valid identity and sexuality that breaks free from the heteronormative society. It not only defines asexuality as a way to identify in the women's movement, but as a means to identify to live a happy and fulfilling life away from the sexual normalcy of society, stating,
"We choose the term asexual to describe ourselves because both celibate and anti-sexual have connotations we wish to avoid. The first implies that one has sacrificed sexuality for some higher good. The second, that sexuality is degrading or somehow inherently bad. Asexual, as we use it, does not mean without sex, but relating sexually to no one."
I'm gonna be completely honest here, 100%. The Asexual Manifesto has not aged well for asexuality or any A-spec identities at all. Don't get me wrong, I am not condemning this important piece of literature, nor am I saying that it's completely horrible, as celibacy to counter sexism and the sexualization from cishet men is an important factor and tool in feminism. But through the lens of asexuality, it's not that accurate at all. Asexuality and aromanticism and other identities on the Aspec spectrum, for example demisexual, are not celibate and or unromantic because they want to. Asexuals are asexuals because they are asexual or aromantic. Nevertheless, at the time, the Asexual Manifesto in the 70s and 80s were crucial, not only for asexual movements, but for the visibility of asexuals in the lesbian and gay communities. On January 23rd, 1978, The Village Voice, a newspaper for NYC's artist community, featured an article called Asexual Chic. Everybody's not doing it, that discusses asexuals living among the LGBTQ communities in NYC, who they are, and how their ideas shifted from matching the more appropriate and more accurate definition of asexuality today, and had many parallels to beliefs in the Asexual Manifesto, showing that it has its connection still, and despite not meaning the exact same things in their terminology, showing how asexuality was slowly but surely defining itself in queer spaces. Asexuality is one sexuality that not only gets talked down upon in queer spaces, but is sometimes completely forgotten and not talked about with as much depth or thought as other sexualities and gender. You will get the occasional discussion of how asexuals or aromanticism love their rings, jewelry, or people will come in to praise Todd from BoJack Horseman, in which he's actually a good rep as everyone says. But discussions on asexuality really stop there, and any attempt to dive deeper into the identities or try to go deeper into the people behind it is greeted with acephobia towards A-spec people or just trying to push them aside for other identities. Asexuality is just, in a sense, invisible, only acknowledged for a nice laugh or compliment, but completely ignored for anything else asexuality has. But just like other sexualities, asexualities have their own depth, their own discussions, and as we can tell from the title of this as well as my other videos, their own manga. Before I go any deeper, I just want to say thank you so much to user All the World at My Feet, because thanks to them, I was able to find several good mangas that talk about asexuality and discusses them. So we're not only going to use this video to honor them for being able to open up and share this with me, but we're using this video to honor A-spec people, be it Arrow, Greysexual, Demisexual, all those under the A-spec umbrella, so they can be seen. So let's get into it. So what do we have? Now, asexual manga is one that, much like bisexual manga or trans manga, aren't easily spotted in the wild. Unlike Yaoi or Yuri, they typically don't have covers or characters that specifically identify themselves as asexual, and you actually have to read the manga or pick it up, except two mangas, both by Isaki Uta, Is Love the Answer, and Mine-kun is Asexual. To start with the first mention, Is Love the Answer immediately hits you with the idea that it's about asexuality, not only with the asexual flag literally in the cover, but with the protagonist. Chika Hanai is a high schooler that has always struggled with dating, and not in the sense that she can't pull, but that she never enjoyed or wanted to date anyone or engage in sexual interaction. Just did it because, well, she was forced to in a society that expects women to date men and find someone she'll love. From there, she entered university to find more people that are diverse and different from the norm. From there, she not only finds a more healthier community to be around, she also finds out her identity and the source of why she wasn't the ideal girl. She was aromantic asexual. From there, she meets Ito, a queer man figuring out his identity, Ino, a Fujoshi who learns to explore and understand sexuality thanks to Yaoi and BL, and a professor that was also aromantic, asexual, and agender, and entered a queer platonic relationship with a former colleague. Put a bookmark on QPRs. We're gonna get back to this in the third manga I talk about. Throughout the manga, we see Chika explore her asexuality. We see her discuss it, pick up other social cues, and understand what it means to be herself. I love how the author, and to an extension Chika, describes herself as an alien from a strange planet, and how she feels isolated for her identity. She understands she is different. She understands she fits outside of the mold of girls in Japan, and she of course understands she fits outside the usual LGBT identities. But instead of hating herself or submitting herself to the cis-hetero norms, she embraces her alienness, or more specifically, her queerness. And this goes for even outside of asexuality, such as her enjoying romance manga recommended by Ino, to even bringing a magical girl anime that she loves to campus. Chika knows she's not normal, but instead of trying to just suppress it like prior, she embraces her asexuality as a part of what makes Chika, Chika. Chapter 6 really was the scene that truly established it as an asexual story, as it is a culmination of what Chika learned about herself and how she helps Ume-chan senpai, someone who at first was rude and confrontational with Chika. Chapter 6 shows how Ume had dating problems and identity, especially dating a girl he cared about. Ume-san confesses that he might be aro-ace, but unlike Chika, hurts people due to his identity. Ume-chan senpai confesses that he is just not fit due to his past, but Chika calls him out on this, and that he's valid. It shows how well Chika has grown. She went from this shy person who always felt isolated to fighting for keeping a close relationship and sticking with Ume, someone she cares about, as well as being someone that embraces her asexuality and doesn't want to reflect on her past to think she can't. Overall, Is Love the Answer shows that asexuality is something that is confusing and alienating and sometimes weird, but that's okay. Because sometimes it's these alienating experiences and sometimes difficult paths that shape asexuality to the person's identity, and that was especially true to Chika and her story. Okay, so if there's one primary characteristic that is being shown, be it the Asexual Manifesto, Asexual Chic, and Chika's story, is that it's mostly women shown being asexual and asexuality. I mean, it isn't unjustified because asexuals are more likely to identify as women and non-binary. However, to ignore and not talk about asexuals who are male is not only disingenuous, but also completely erases men who are asexual, aromantic, and just Aspec. Fortunately, Uta-san picked up on this and made a manga with an asexual male protagonist. Mine-kun is asexual. Mine-kun follows the titular character and his struggles dating an allosexual girl named Murai. For those who don't know, allosexual is people who are sexual active, people who feel sexual, The manga, despite being a one-shot, has a good dive into the boundaries of asexuals when they date, what they like, and how non-asexuals feel when dating asexuals. What I like about the manga is it's through the lens of Murai, but it's never inconsiderate or knocking asexuals for their boundaries or want. Instead, it shows Murai trying her best to understand Mine. She knows that she wants intimacy and she wants to engage in sex, but at the same time, she loves Mine and refuses to overstep boundaries that would make Mine-kun turned off. We even see Mine-kun talk about how he finds comfort in Murai, saying how she's the one person easiest to talk to. This manga, however, does end on a sad ending where Murai and Mine break up, but at least with the fact that they both feel content with who they are and they don't need to change anything for the other. Honestly, the ending for this one shot threw me off, as instead of a usual cheesy happy ending, I got a bittersweet ending that helped humanize not only Murai and her wants in a relationship, but Mine and his asexuality. Now, let's move away from Uta and her works and expand to other mangas that feature asexuality as the forefront. I could just do a cop-out and talk about Psyche K and how he's canonically aro-ace and a trans guy, which is cool because we love Shonen Jump titles and we love representation, but mostly Shonen Jump titles because the minute I get to talk about Neuro Nogami, it's so over for this channel. But lo and behold, there is a J-drama and other manga that is dedicated to all about aromanticism and asexuality, and boy, is it great. For the manga, both of them are discussions of relationships and asexuals being able to manage them via romantically or platonically. Donut Under a Crescent Moon is about Uno Hinako and Asahi Sato, two office workers who love each other but can't show it or appreciate it like normal couples do due to their asexuality. In turn, the manga finds their friendship blossoming, and through it, a romance that needs no kissing or hugging, but one of mutual love and tolerance for each other. What I really love about this manga is the use of donuts as a symbol for asexuality. Round and delicious, yet empty, showing how some asexuals don't get sexual attraction like others. This leads to such an amazing representation of lesbians who are asexual. It teaches the audience that yes, asexuals can find love, and other people who are innately gay are asexual. They are lesbians, like Asahi and Uno, who are asexual because they are, and lesbians because they are, that struggle with love, but are able to find love within each other. I just think it's a real sincere way to tackle asexuality, and not only are the love between women kept intact, it also helps boost asexuality to be something just as valuable and queer as other WLW identities like lesbians. I also really love how they describe asexuality and their own experiences, giving us a big insight into how the characters perceive themselves and what they wish to accomplish in a relationship. The final manga that really stuck with me was Watashi wa Kabe ni Naritai, or I Want to Be a Wall. This one stuck with me the longest. The premise is a gay man, Gakurota, and a Fujoshi, Yuriko, get married and stick together to masquerade as a couple for the sake of looking good and passing as a traditional couple. But the thing is, Yuriko is aro ace. I love this premise a lot, mainly because it helps dispel the myth that aro aces are void of sexual or romantic content. Yes, most asexuals don't want sex in real life. Yes, most aromantics don't want a romantic relationship in life. However, indulging in content with sexual and romantic substances like Yaoi and BL for an aro ace is not bad at all. Them wanting to see romance stories or stories where characters have sex doesn't nullify their identity or change them at all. Yuriko is still who she is. Just like Ino in Is Love the Answer, it shows how queer women want to engage in yaoi or yuri, etc., even if they don't identify strictly as gay or lesbian, and yet they're still valid because they're still engaging in inherently queer topics. The manga explains asexuality, how asexuals interact with sexual content, and learn to accept themselves through such content. It's just so sweet to watch it, and I love how unique the way it approaches the themes of aro ace people.
There's also people who can have sex with certain people in certain conditions, even though they don't have a sex drive. Some who don't get romance and sex, but still want to date, and others who are completely averse to the idea of romance and sex. There's quite a spectrum. I think Yuri-chan is the kind of person who experiences strong yearning. I think she doesn't want any romance or sexual contact for herself, but in others, it's a brilliant sight in her eyes. It's like she sees all those bonds throughout the world as beautiful, precious things.
One thing to also note is that Yuriko uses yaoi in BL as a way to understand romantic and sexual relationships, so that way she and Gaku can pass as a proper romantic couple, when in reality she can't feel romantic or sexual feelings, but uses yaoi as a blueprint to try to understand it. Speaking of part of the couple, let's jump to Kakurota. Gaku has an unrequited love on a childhood friend Sosuke and wishes to be in a romantic relationship with him. Yuriko, using her power and belief of the BL gods, wants to get them together and be's his wingwoman. You might think this is terrible fetishization and she is fetishizing him, but you know what? I love it. Yuriko is a great wingwoman. She never comes off as trying to be fetishy, but more or less trying to understand what gay relationships are like, let alone relationships in general, and try to get them together because she knows that's what makes Gaku happy. It not only proves yaoi fans make the best wingmans or womans, but asexuals and aromantics are the best wingmans. You know you're set when an a-spec is on deck. Jokes aside, what I like about this manga is it's not a romance, but instead about QPR. I mentioned this in the first manga, Is Love the Answer. Queer platonic relationship. What is this newfangled word you just heard about, you may ask? Well, it's pretty much when two or more people come together to have an intimate relationship void of romanticism and most of the time, sex. You might say, isn't this best friendship or friends with benefits or something? And to be honest, it isn't. It's really for a-spec people, especially asexuals, and you know what? It's just as valid. The way Yuriko and Gaku handle their QPR is so interesting and heartwarming. It shows camaraderie, and it shows friendship. It shows that a gay man and an aro ace woman, let alone a Fujoshi, can find a close friendship that is built on respect and a platonic passion for supporting each other. Whether it's Gaku getting concerned about Yuriko's gay Fudanshi friend Momoya, to also having Yuriko care for Gaku and his one-sided love is so wholesome. I gotta appreciate it. Also, I want to make a quick pit stop. I love how Gaku is wanting to embrace BL. Just seeing him trying to sneak in to read BL, as well as talking to Momoya about it, I really kind of resonated with Gaku a lot as a gay man. I know this is about asexuality, but I just had to really call it. I see myself in Gaku. Being someone who's slowly getting back into Yaoi and BL and reading more of it, I kind of see what Gaku sees and appreciates it. So, I really not only found this manga more heartwarming for me, but I also just found it more connecting to me as someone who's enjoying a genre that has generally been feeling amazing to me these past few months. I'm really grateful for this manga a lot, for Gaku's existence. So honestly, I just found myself respecting and loving A-spec people, especially aro ace people, a lot more. So I just wanted to say asexuals, aromantics, any A-spec in the umbrella, whatchamacallit, solidarity forever with you guys. I'll always have solidarity. G with the A. Sorry, I'm just getting emotional. This manga is so good. Now, I have discussed all the manga I wanted to discuss, and you might think that I don't have anything else. But luckily for aro aces, I got you a new J-drama, Koisenu Futari, or A Couple Without Falling in Love. The J-drama revolves around Takahashi and Sakuko and bonding over being aro ace and becoming a family. I love how they stress the idea of not wanting romance and instead just being a queer platonic relationship together, or family if they don't like that label. Being in a non-traditional relationship that doesn't need romance and sex really is just a great theme to have in your story. Not to mention, what I also enjoy is the fact that people outside of their family tries to understand. Even Kazu, Sakuko's ex-boyfriend, who goes from a desperate ex-boyfriend who's an idiot who doesn't understand anything to an ally who tries to help Takahashi and Sakuko as much as he can. It's awesome. I do love how the show doesn't hold any punches and making sure to not pretend it is a romance. It's an aro ace story through and through, from the pride flags in episode 7 to Takahashi's blog being called Aro Lettuce. I'm sorry, I forgot. And sorry to get distracted, but doesn't Takahashi sound familiar?
どんなセクシャリティであれ、誰かと一緒にいたい一人は寂しい。ゾフィー、私は一人の人間と共存している。彼の命を維持するために。
Also, Kazu looks familiar. This show isn't just Shin Ultraman teaching Lupin Blue about A-spec identities. It explores divorce, workplace harassment, and also realizing your identity as an adult. I love this series, and even its ending went on a nice note where they're able to move on in a healthy way and still be close. Koisenu Futari just shows aro ace QPRs and explores their connection. I really could not recognize this J-drama enough, even without Shin Ultraman and Lupin Blue being in it. And also, I'm now hungering for vegetables now more oftenly. So we're nearing the end. This is the part of the video where I usually highlight a famous person who identified with the sexuality and or gender I talk about in the video and correlate their life to the works mentioned, and how we can use history as a way to help connect these mangas to importance in LGBTQ culture. The thing is, there are only a handful amount, but none that have made it mainstream, so to speak. Brenda, Stormy, or Herring, people I've mentioned in the past, have been mainstream, but asexual activists? Not necessarily. I could mention famous activists like David J., Marshall Blount, and Yasmin Benoit, but as much as they deserve credit, they're still alive and known and very much visible, and you can literally reach out to them. Heck, Benoit was the first ever asexual Grand Marshal for NYC Pride. Instead, I want to talk about an asexual activist that unfortunately wasn't as visible as them, and their status and where they are now, as well as their history lost to time. In 1981, Heresies, a feminist newspaper, published a letter discussing asexuality and their visibility. She highlights the struggles of not being seen in the gay community, the lack of support from gays and lesbians, and also the idea that if they had a community, being asexual and also aromantic would be easier.
As long as people are ashamed of their inability to attract lovers and form sexual relationships, an honest sharing of feelings and experiences is impossible. If we can attack these feelings of shame at their roots and get rid of them, then I believe we will see that there are just as many asexuals in the world as heterosexuals and homosexuals, that our lifestyle, while not our choice, is just as real and valid, and that we deserve a fair and equal representation.
The woman who wrote that is Catherine Kobali. Kobali is someone we have very little history of. There's only one thing to remember her, and it's this passage, but her essay is important to the mangas and asexuals. Why? She makes asexuality visible. Her letter helps asexuals know that others like her are out there. She helps connect people like Sakuko, Yuriko, and Mine in real life. She also stresses that people like Kazu, Gaku, and Murai understand and try to connect with asexuals. Catherine Kobali. I don't know if you're alive, dead, or relatives, but if out of nowhere, out of any magic, you're watching this video, thank you for writing this. Thank you for proving asexuals aren't just a phase. Thank you for proving that asexuals have been in the LGBTQ and feminist movements and showing they need to be visible too. Your legacy will live on, and these mangas and Jdramas are proof of your passion for asexuality and, more importantly, your legacy. Catherine Kobali, as of this video, will no longer be invisible, nor will any asexual or aromantic or any a-spec identity, and they too can be cabbage farmers, college students, donut eaters, and of course, march down with their flags waving together. Seeing this Twitter post is just so heartwarming because it shows that with asexuals and aromantic, they will be seen and they will be heard. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this is a little delay. I'm starting college up again, so there will be a delay in some videos. I do have a video in mind, but I want to get through school first. So I have other news. I opened a Tumblr, but please do follow me on Tumblr. I post about LGBTQ stuff. I also post about stuff, you know, relating to the fandoms I'm in, like Kamen Rider and Sentai. As I'm recording this, it's Kaiser Day. But anyway, so please follow me on Tumblr, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Blue Sky if you're one of the 10 people who have it. And thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and comment. Make sure to subscribe too. Get that subscriber count up, if anything. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day, especially if you're asexual.